Hello, class. Today, we will learn the action conditions of the incoming line BZT. We are still analyzing it with this sectionalized configuration figure below. Under normal circumstances, the 1dl circuit breaker is in a sub position. The 2dl and 3dl circuit breakers are in a closed position. At this time, the incoming line 2 takes the load on the 1 bus and the 2 bus to operate. Due to the 1dl is in a sub position, shift from hot reserve state to operation state at any time. What is the action process of incoming line BZT? It refers to when the charging is completed, indicating that the charging of the incoming line BZT has been finished, ready for action at any time. On the contrary, when the charging is not completed, the incoming line BZT does not have the conditions of action. To complete the charging of the incoming line BZT, first of all, 1 bus and 2 bus are without voltage. That is to say, the voltage of 1 bus and 2 bus collected by the device is less than the no voltage setting value, and the device will judge that both 1 bus and 2 bus are no voltage state. So, why would the bus have no voltage? There are several reasons, the most likely of which is a fault on incoming line 2. Why? Because the 1 and 2 buses are operated by incoming line 2, carrying the load at this time. If there is no voltage on the 1 and 2 buses, then there must be a fault in incoming line 2. Secondly, incoming line 1 must have voltage. Although the 1dl circuit breaker is in a sub position, but the incoming line 1 is ready to be put into operation at any time. The incoming line 1 has voltage, but the incoming line 2 is no current. Why? Because it has a fault or other problems. The protection action will trip the 2dl circuit breaker, so there is no current on incoming line 2. After completing the voltage and current judgment, we trip the 2dl circuit breaker on incoming line 2 after the setting delay of BZT, after confirming that 2dl is tripped open. The delay is sent to closing and commanded to close the 1dl circuit breaker. At this time, 1dl is closed, and then the incoming line 1 will take the load on the 1 bus and the 2 bus to operate. This is the action process of incoming line BZT that you can see. Let's summarize. The first thing is to confirm 3 states. The first one is, it is required that there is no voltage on bus 1 and bus 2. The second state is that incoming line 1 has voltage, which means that it is a state that can be put into operation at any time. The third condition is that there is no current on incoming line 2, because there is a fault protection action on incoming line 2 that trips the circuit breaker on incoming line 2. After confirming these 3 states, the BZT will trip the circuit breaker 2dl on incoming line 2 after the setting delay. After confirming that 2dl has been tripped, we then close the circuit breaker 1dl, and the loads of bus 1 and bus 2 will be carried by the incoming line 1 to operate. So, the whole action process of incoming line BZT will be completed. If the BZT acts to trip the 2dl, but the 2dl is not disconnected, then, after a delay, the method to trip fails, and the BZT discharges automatically. What does this mean? That is to say, the action process of BZT 2dl is to trip 2dl first, and then close 1DL. If 2DL is tripped but it is not disconnected, and expand the accident, it means that the tripping has failed. If 2DL fails to trip, then BZT cannot close 1DL because it may close on the fault of incoming line 2. So, after a delay, report that the incoming line BZT has failed to trip and discharge the incoming line BZT. So, before closing 1DL, you must make sure that 2DL has been tripped open. Otherwise, the BZT will not be able to act. Special cases of incoming line BZT action. The first situation is that if section circuit breaker 3DL has a sneak trip, after a trip delay, 3DL make up the trip of section circuit breaker 3DL and the circuit breaker that needs switch. After confirming that the section circuit breaker 3DL has tripped, delay the standby power system circuit breaker 1DL. What does this situation mean? When incoming line 2 is operating with loads on 1 and 2 buses, if a sneak trip occurs on 3DL, my BZT will go through a delay to make up for the trip of 3DL and the breakers that need intertripping. After confirming that the 3DL has tripped, close the 1DL, ensuring the loads on the 1 and 2 buses are operating normally. This is the action process of BZT in case of the 3DL has a sneak trip. The second case is when the BZT is used in the internal bridge connection. What is an internal bridge connection? An internal bridge connection refers to the case where the high voltage side of the transformer is not equipped with a circuit breaker, and we call this type of connection an internal bridge connection. If the high voltage side of the transformer is equipped with a circuit breaker, we call it a complete single-phase segmentation connection. When the BZT is used in internal bridge connection mode, operating in mode 2, a fault occurs in main transformer number 1, and the main transformer protection acts to block the BZT action. Why? Number 1 main transformer faults. Number 1 main transformer protection acts at this time, requesting to trip open 3DL and 1DL, and requesting to block the BZT. Because at this time, the main transformer has a fault. We cannot go to close the 1DL, let it close on the fault. So, when used in this form of internal bridge connection, number 1 main transformer protection acts to block the BZT. Number 1 main transformer protection will give the BZT a digital input. That is, number 1 main transformer protection acts to automatically block the BZT. And the number 2 main transformer occurs fault. Then the number 2 main transformer protection acts, tripping the incoming line 2 circuit breaker 2DL and bridge circuit breaker 3DL. If at this time the number 2 main transformer protection acts, it is the 2DL and 3DL circuit breaker disconnect. Excise the transformer fault. When the 2DL and 3DL disconnect, the BZT device through the delay trip, making up for the trip of the bridge circuit breaker 3DL and the circuit breaker need intertripping. Confirming that the bridge circuit breaker 3DL tripped open, delayed closing incoming line 1 circuit breaker 1DL. That is, by the incoming line 1 with 1 bus and 2 bus to operate. That is, to reduce the load losses. These are 2 special cases of BZT action when it's used for internal bridge connection. This lesson analyzed and explained the action cases of the incoming line BZT. And what you need to master is what states need to be identified before the action of BZT, and what special circumstances are there. Okay, class, that's it for today. See you next lesson.